Ambassador HFY Thor pressed the red button on his communication device, his 12 eyes gleaming with malicious satisfaction. The message was simple: species #4739, designation humans. You have 30 Earth rotations to comply with Galactic Council Tax Code 7.2.1 or face obliteration. He ended the transmission with what he thought was a death sentence, but what he had actually done was wake up a sleeping dragon. The massive crystalline structure of the Galactic Council headquarters floated in the void between stars, its bioluminescent towers pulsing with the collective arrogance of 10,000 species. For millennia, the Council had ruled the galaxy with an iron fist wrapped in diplomatic velvet. Every newly discovered species followed the same pattern: initial contact, assessment of resources, taxation demands, and eventual subjugation. The humans of Earth had been discovered only recently, their primitive rockets barely scratching the surface of space travel. To the Council, they appeared to be another backwater species, bipedal, carbon-based, and laughably weak. Their technology was centuries behind the Council's most basic systems. Their military consisted of crude projectile weapons and chemical explosives. They hadn't even figured out faster-than-light travel. These humans are perfect for the tribute system HFY Thor had reported to the High Council. They possess an adequate population for labor, their planet contains useful minerals, and they show no signs of advanced defensive capabilities. Standard taxation protocol should suffice. The Council's demands were typical: 50% of Earth's population to serve as laborers on Council worlds, 75% of the planet's mineral resources, and complete submission to Council authority. The humans would become another species in the vast catalog of the subjugated, their civilization ground down to feed the Council's endless appetite for power and resources. What the Council didn't understand was that humans had a peculiar relationship with demands backed by threats. Throughout their history, they had shown a disturbing tendency to respond to impossible odds with something the Council had never encountered in their 10,000 years of galactic dominance: defiant creativity. The response came exactly 30 Earth rotations later. Not from Earth's primitive governments, but from someone completely unexpected, a maintenance worker at the International Space Station named Jake Morrison. "Dear Galactic Council," the transmission began, "we appreciate your offer, but we'll have to respectfully decline. However, we do have a counterproposal. How about you come down here and try to make us?" Signed, Planet Earth. P.S. We left a little surprise for you. HFY Thor's laughter echoed through the Council chambers. The audacity of these creatures. They think they can negotiate with us? Deploy the enforcement fleet immediately. The Council's enforcement fleet was a sight to behold: 300 massive dreadnoughts, each capable of reducing a continent to ash. Their shields could deflect the energy output of a small star. Their weapons had cracked moons in half. No species had ever survived their arrival. As the fleet approached Earth's solar system, Admiral Kretok reviewed the intelligence reports one final time. Primitive projectile weapons, chemical explosives, no energy shields. This will be over before it begins. Remember, HFY Thor added over the comm, we need enough of them alive to serve as laborers. Try not to obliterate the entire species. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, their massive forms blotting out stars. Admiral Kretok opened a channel to Earth. "Humans, this is your final warning. Surrender now or eh." The transmission cut off abruptly. Admiral Kretok stared at his instruments in confusion. What happened to the signal? "Sir," his tactical officer reported, his voice trembling, "we're not receiving any transmissions from Earth. In fact, we're not receiving any transmissions from anywhere in the system." "Impossible. Run a full diagnostic." "Sir, the diagnostics are running, but there's something else. Our navigation systems are showing impossible readings. According to our instruments, we're not in the Sol system anymore." Admiral Kretok felt his 4 hearts skip several beats. "What do you mean we're not in the Sol system?" "I mean, sir, that according to every sensor we have, this system doesn't exist. We're in a region of space that appears to be completely empty. No stars, no planets, no eye. Contact the other ships in the fleet immediately." "Sir, that's the problem. The other ships, they're not there. We're alone." As the horrifying truth sank in, Admiral Kretok realized that somehow, impossibly, the humans had separated his entire fleet. Each ship was now floating alone in empty space, cut off from the others, unable to communicate, unable to navigate. On Earth, Jake Morrison stood in mission control, watching 300 blinking dots on a holographic display. Each dot represented a council ship now scattered across 300 different pocket dimensions that humanity had somehow learned to create in the span of 30 days. How did we do this? Whispered Dr. Sarachin, Earth's leading theoretical physicist. Jake grinned. Turns out, when you threaten to enslave an entire species, they get pretty motivated to solve impossible problems. We've had the brightest minds on the planet working around the clock. Quantum engineers, science fiction writers, even a few magicians. But dimensional manipulation? That's beyond our technology by centuries. That's what we thought too. But humans have this weird habit of making the impossible possible when we're backed into a corner. We call it hold my beer and watch the syndrome. Back in the pocket dimension, Admiral Kretok was receiving reports from his engineering teams. Sir, we've tried everything. The dimensional barriers are holding. We can't break through, we can't communicate out, and our weapons are useless against whatever is containing us. How is this possible? They're a primitive species. Sir, with respect, I don't think they're as primitive as we assumed. The Admiral was about to respond when a new transmission came through, not from his fleet, but from Earth. Hello, Admiral Kretok. This is Jake Morrison, official representative of the primitive species you tried to intimidate. We've got your entire fleet contained in what we like to call timeout corners. Don't worry, you've got food, water, and entertainment systems. We're not monsters. Release us immediately, or the Council will The Council will what? Send another fleet? We've got pocket dimensions for days, buddy. Want to see what happens when we get really creative? Admiral Kretok watched in horror as his tactical display showed impossible readings. Somehow Earth's moon had just moved. Not in its orbit, but to a completely different position in the solar system. Then it moved again. And again. Yeah, we figured out gravity manipulation about 2 weeks ago. Amazing what you can accomplish when you've got 8 billion people all working toward the same goal. Turns out our primitive internet is pretty good for coordinating global scientific breakthroughs. This is impossible. Your species lacks the intelligence for such innovations. You know what we lack? Imagination limitations. See, when you've spent your entire existence being told what's impossible, you develop a real talent for proving people wrong. We call it human stubbornness. The transmission continued. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to send you back to your precious council with a message. Earth is off limits. Humanity is not interested in your tribute system. And if you ever threaten us again, we'll show you what happens when a species that invented nuclear weapons in less than a century gets really, really annoyed. The Council will never accept this. They'll send the entire Galactic Navy. Let them come. We'll be ready. You just taught us that we're not alone in the universe, and frankly, that's the best news we've heard in centuries. Nothing motivates humans like a good challenge. Admiral Kretok felt his worst fears confirmed as the transmission ended. The humans weren't just technologically advanced, they were unpredictable, creative, and absolutely fearless. They had turned their apparent weakness into their greatest strength. The pocket dimensions began to collapse, but instead of crushing the council ships, they gently deposited them back in normal space directly in front of the Galactic Council headquarters. The entire fleet found themselves floating helplessly, their weapons offline, their communications broadcasting a single message on repeat. Humanity sends its regards. We decline your tribute offer. Try not to bother us again. Zhuaixthor stared at the returning fleet in disbelief. In 10,000 years of galactic dominance, no species had ever turned the tables so completely on the Council. The humans had not only refused to submit, they had demonstrated technological capabilities that exceeded even the Council's most advanced systems. As the reports came in, the scope of the disaster became clear. The humans had neutralized the most powerful military force in the galaxy without firing a single shot. They had manipulated space, time, and gravity as if they were playing with toys. And they had done it all in 30 days. Sir, his aide whispered, what do we do now? Zhuaixthor looked at the data streams showing Earth's continued technological advancement. The humans were now building ships that could travel between dimensions, creating defensive systems that bent reality itself, and worst of all, they were laughing about it on their global communication networks. We leave them alone, he said quietly. We leave them alone and pray they never decide to visit us. The Galactic Council, for the first time in its history, added a species to the Do Not Contact list. The notation read simply, Humans, species #4739, classification, unpredictable, recommendation, avoidance at all costs. Jake Morrison, meanwhile, was already planning humanity's next move. So, he said to the assembled scientists, now that we've figured out dimensional manipulation, who wants to explore the galaxy? I hear there's a whole council out there that could use some lessons in manners. And with that, humanity took its first step not as a subjugated species, but as the newest and most unpredictable power in the galaxy.